one more minute. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I don't mean to be like awkwardly lurking in the background.
No, you're fine. I don't expect a whole lot of people to join, so I'm recording this so people can watch it later.
Okay, no worries. So I'm gonna make myself some lunch, but I'm still listening and taking notes, but I'll probably have my camera off if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks. So
Okay.
it is 1 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kimberly Tucker. I am the director of bands at Tennyson Middle School. This upcoming year will be my 8th year in Waco ISD, which I love it here. But it's going to be my 20th year overall in teaching. I started teaching in 2000 in DeSoto, which is about 20 miles southeast of Dallas, as an assistant band director. And my biggest challenge was managing my non-varsity band of 70 7th and 8th graders when I felt that I couldn't gain respect because I'm only 5 foot tall and at the time was very young. And thankfully, I had a really wonderful mentor teacher who instructed me to talk less and play more. So it's going to be kind of weird that I'm going to be doing a lot of talking in this hour. And we practiced a lot of procedures. And throughout the years, I've learned a lot of tips, I guess with experience, but a lot of it is through knowledge. I have attended so many different professional development sessions through the Texas Music Educators Association, observing master teachers, and I constantly want to grow and learn and read and so forth. And during the pandemic, I picked up some new routines just in my personal life that kind of got me through the pandemic, and it's made me so much more healthy and happy, and going to continue it for probably the rest of my life. So I just wanted to share some of those things with you. So I know the title is really long, but it's mainly about creating routines in your classroom and in your life. But in order to have routines, you have to, oh my goodness, why am I not advancing my slides? There we go. You have to start with procedures. So a procedure is a particular method of performing a task. So in band, we have all kinds of procedures because if we didn't, it would be just a noisy, chaotic mess. Those procedures become routines after just doing them repeatedly over and over. I talked about some of the routines outside of the classroom. In the morning, I used to just kind of, I had my alarm set, and, I'd always wake up a little bit before my alarm, and then I would reset it, and I would just kind of go back to bed and just kind of would stumble out of bed. I didn't really have a routine. And then during the pandemic, I created some routines, and they've helped me just become consistent and happier and healthier. So knowing that I have to leave at 7:30 every morning to make it on time to school, I set my alarm for 5 o'clock, and I actually get up and I go to the bathroom. And then first thing I do is I work out. There's an app called Fit On, and it's free. And I do like anywhere between a 10 and 30-minute workout. Thankfully, I have Bluetooth and Apple TV, and it just connects to my TV, and I can get in a quick workout. I do break a sweat, and then after that, I brew some coffee, and I read and drink my coffee while I cool down. And that for me is my time of just kind of meditation. And I'm also doing more professional development if I'm reading those kinds of books. I saw last year that there was something called a book tower to read 20 books in the year 2020. And I started reading regularly, probably in June or July, and I surpassed 20 books. And for this year, from January 1st to now, I'm on book 30. But I'm reading all kinds of stuff and learning all kinds of stuff. So that's a good routine for me. And then I say my daily prayers. I can make my to-do list, and I don't feel rushed. I feel like my mind is right, and it sets the pace for the rest of the day. So if you don't have a morning routine, I really suggest that you put something in place. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as that. Even if it's just waking up a little bit early to have some coffee and some breakfast, and read your favorite news or whatever. In the evening, what I learned through the pandemic was that I have this special time that's for my family. Like, I used to just be a workaholic, and I'd come home and I was tired and I'd watch maybe one show and go to bed. And I didn't really spend the time that I needed to be spending with my family. So with the pandemic, I had to leave at 4:30 because the custodians had to clean the band hall. So what I'm going to be putting in place is leaving by 5:30. That's it. If I don't get done what I need to get done, too bad. It can wait for me. But we have sectionals that are going to go up until about 5:30, and then I'm going to leave the office. And every night I've been taking my dog for a walk. Another routine that I've set up is a running challenge. So I try to get in a certain number of miles every month. In January, I started with 25 miles that I had to just either walk or run within the month. And I hit that goal plus more. And each month I've been adding. So this month we're up to 50 miles. And I have about 7 miles left, and I have more within 7 days. So I think we're doing good. But it gives me, again, that time with nature and the time to kind of just think and plan for the next day. So that's it for my routines outside of the classroom. But again, my advice is just to find some time for yourself to kind of decompress and get your mind settled, and to spend time with family and with friends and yourself, and away from the job, so that you can be a better person for the job. With the procedures, I went ahead and put these in steps. I know you guys have this PowerPoint, so I'm not going to just read everything to you. I'll talk a little bit about each point, but this first step is just to create some procedures. So I'm sure you're probably aware of the CHAMPS method, where you take every activity or transition and you map out how you want that to look. So C is conversation. What voice level do the students need to be at? H is help. If the students need to ask for help during that activity or transition, how is that going to look? A is the activity. M is movement. How much or how little movement is allowed? And then P is, what does their participation look like? So just, you want to think about everything. How do you want your classroom to look? What kinds of activities do you have? Are you okay with a little bit of chaos? Some teachers are, and that's fine. Or do you need complete silence? You need to be very specific, leave no room for questions, because the kids are going to have questions. You need to think about what the kids' questions are going to be and have an answer for them. And in this first step, maybe open up Google Slides and create one slide for each activity or transition, and champ it out. And that will help you prepare for step 2, which is teaching the procedures. So before the first day of school, you want to plan how and when you're going to teach each procedure. If you try to do it all at once, the kids are going to be overwhelmed. You're going to forget what some of your procedures are, and it's just too much. So you want to go ahead and teach and practice just a few, excuse me while I admit, practice a few on day 1, and then introduce and practice more as activities and transitions are planned. So day 1, I plan on, having everything laid out for the kids to enter and explain, you guys did this really well. Our procedure for entering the class is this, and then we can practice that. My bell ringer, there's going to be a few things that we're going to practice on day 1, and just help the kids feel more at ease with how my classroom is going to run. You also, before the first day of school, you want to create a class syllabus or a handbook. In band, we have a handbook, and I usually just recycle the one from year to year and change things up. But I think I'm going to do like a total rehaul or U-haul or whatever on my handbook to make it more to today, because I need to include more stuff about our technology that we're using and the different procedures that we put in place because of COVID. but it's important to have everything in writing. Step 3 is rehearsal procedures. So I'm a band person, so I'm going to say rehearsal instead of practice, but basically rehearsing is simulating the performance. So before we have a concert, we have to practice the way we're going to perform. We say that all the time in the band hall. We don't just phone it in class, or I tell my kids not to phone it in class, because when you're actually performing, things come up, or you're nervous, and you're going to perform the way you've practiced it. So to me, rehearsing seems a little bit more professional and elevated than just practicing it. Practicing doesn't seem as, I guess, formal. And you want to rehearse it until it can't be done wrong. You want to make sure that everyone understands. And if it seems like there's kids that aren't getting it or just kind of playing around, you're just practicing the procedures. You're rehearsing the procedures. Don't make it into a big behavior conflict with the students. You're helping them to learn the process. You have to know there's going to be constant tweaking and improvement. In practicing or rehearsing your procedures, you may realize that there's a better way, and that's okay that you discover that with your students, as long as everyone's on the same page and understands what you want from them. So at this point, you want the students to know your procedure so well that they can teach them. In band, we have student leaders. I appoint one person in each section usually, and give them their list of responsibilities, and I talk with them about it. And if they're not okay with it, that's fine. They can let me know, and then I'll go to someone else. Something that I've also done that's very successful is with our warm-up with the beginners anyway, we do the same thing every day. We do our breathing exercises, we do our musical alphabet, like we go through this checklist of things. And then the students each get up and lead the warm-up. And I just go alphabetically so they know whose turn it is, and I give them a calendar, and they get up and they lead it. And the first round, we'll talk about it afterwards. How do you think that went? How do you think it could have gone better? And then it gets to the point where that's not even necessary, and the kids just know. And then if I'm sick or something and someone else has to watch my class, the kids can still practice because they know the procedures, they know the routines. Step 4 in creating these procedures and making sure your kids understand it is you need to assess each procedure. You need to see if the kids understand what is expected of them. I do a lot of verbal questioning. Even the last week of school, I was asking the students, what are my expectations when you walk in the room? What is the first thing you need to do? And if, I didn't get everyone saying, we need to sit in our assigned seat and open up our laptop and complete the contact tracing form and the exit ticket, then we reviewed it, even on the last week of school. Written quizzes are good in the beginning. With Google Forms, you can just pop one of those into Canvas or Seesaw or whatever digital learning management system you use on the homepage, or as an assignment, and it's anonymous, like the kids won't feel like they're being called out if they don't get it. You'll be able to see what they are understanding. And of course, you need to reteach when necessary. I think everyone knows, like the first week or two of school, you're not really teaching a whole lot of content. You are teaching your procedures and your rules and your norms and everything. But then a lot of teachers kind of just figure that's it. After 2 weeks of practicing it, the kids should just understand. But they have 8 other classes. At least at my school, we have 9 periods. They have, 8 other classes with 8 other teachers with different procedures. And what you think is them just being a behavior problem, a lot of the times it is they just forgot what the procedures were for your classroom. So just go over it again. And obviously, if you've got a kid that, you've retaught the procedure over and over and over and over in the class, and that just one student isn't getting it, then you can pull them aside. But don't just assume on the first time that they're just being difficult. And then you also want to reinforce when done properly or well. It's amazing when you say, James, I love how you walked in the room today. That was so good. You were so quiet and you got right to work. How that will make James feel really great because he was recognized and noticed for doing the right thing. But the other students around him are going to want that praise too. And they'll start to zero in on what you're looking for with that particular procedure. In step 5, this is when your procedures become routines. When you and your students are clear with what is expected in your classroom, that's when it's a routine. When everyone knows what to do with every little activity. And your classroom is just kind of a well-oiled machine. Everybody's kind of smiling. It's pleasant and calm. There's no drama. There's no anxiousness or chaos. That's when you know that the procedures that you have taught have become routines. It's just what's expected. Everyone just feels calm. I don't know about you, but whenever I have to go to some professional development thing somewhere else, or attend something that I've never been to, I'm kind of uneasy because I don't know what to expect. I don't know how maybe to dress or how to behave, or what I should say or what I shouldn't say. And I try, if I'm able, to do some research beforehand. So it's just human nature. If you don't clearly state what you expect in your classroom and practice that and whatnot, then your kids are going to kind of feel that anxiety too. And there are students who have other issues, like they may be autistic and they may be have some emotional issues or whatnot. And if they know that in your classroom it's going to be this way every day, then they're going to feel more at ease, and you're going to develop this family atmosphere. One of the things that I'm told, at least with our band program, is that there's just this culture, this family culture. The way we start our classroom every day, that's one of our procedures. We say good morning to the class or afternoon, and we say Tennyson band students are what 3 things, and they repeat respectful, responsible, and hardworking as a class. And it's painted on our windows. It's our motto. It's on the back of our band shirts. And that's just a routine as a signal getter. I know some people are like, clap once if you can hear my voice, clap twice if you can hear my voice, that works. Or they'll raise their hand and say, can I have your attention? Those are all procedures that can be taught. For band, since a majority of my students end up going to Waco High, their procedure for attention getting is, hey band, and then they say, hey what? So that's what we do at Tennyson. And then it just kind of goes all the way up to high school, and they know what to expect. But consistency breeds confidence. I will say that you don't have to feel like you're that boring teacher that just does the same thing every day. You're not teaching the same content every day or even the same way. You have lots of different activities, but just the procedures of how to act within your classroom, those are the routines that you're setting. So here is my homework list, not only for you, but for me to do before the first day of school. Number 1, you want to identify how you want your classroom to look and feel. So for me, I know that because of just the space limitations, I need to do a lot before school starts as far as moving equipment and setting up the band hall the way that it needs to be to function correctly. What are your non-negotiables? Talking when I'm talking. That is not kosher with me. But you want to list out your non-negotiables and tell your kids, because If they don't know that, something they're doing is pushing your button a lot, then they're going to do it without realizing it. Now, if you tell them, that you cannot stand when kids smack their chewing gum, and then some kid is constantly doing it, and you have to kind of remind them, and you feel like they're doing it on purpose, then again, that's something that you talk with that student outside of class. You want to champ out everything. We talked about that already. You want to create your classroom management plan. So you can make it into a binder. What's helpful with that is when you're absent, you can have it already ready for your substitute. So they understand that when the students have broken this rule. So this is kind of separate from your procedures. You're going to have your rules whenever the students break the rule, and what's your plan, and you need to make sure that you're in line with your campus as well. I know that we have a set string of things that we need to do when we're managing classroom behavior. You want to create your classroom syllabus and handbook and get approval from your head principal. That is huge because you're going to be sharing this with not only the students, but their parents. And when you have your principal's approval of it, if there's any questions, you can, in speaking with the parents, say, this has been approved by the principal. If we need to have a conference, let's go ahead and set one up. You want to go ahead and create your day one slideshow and your week one procedures lesson plans. So with your slideshow, you want to make sure that you, number one, introduce yourself, a few little personal tidbits about yourself so the kids are getting to know you. And then, your basic outline of this is what the course is. These are some of the first procedures that we're going to go through. You want to have your week one procedures lesson plans. Some of the procedures the students will latch onto really quickly because maybe some of your other teacher friends in the building are doing the same kinds of procedures, and so the kids have already practiced it. So if you don't have a full week's plan, then you're going to be probably recycling other things, or maybe you'll be able to teach more content, but you want to go ahead and be well prepared. And then you want to practice your delivery of your day one procedures. How are you going to rehearse it? If you're going to practice coming in the room, like after they've come in the room and they've sat down and you just want to practice entering the room a couple times, how is that going to look? Are you going to have them line up down the hall this way? Are you going to have them go that way? Are you going to you're going to dismiss them by rows or just free for all? You want to have it planned out so that you're setting that tone and the kids know that you're prepared and you know what you're doing. And then I included some really helpful links. So the Harry Wong publications are great. I did find some first day of school scripts. And this is also from I think it's called the Classroom Management book by Harry Wong. So it talks about, how football coaches prepare up to 20 plays. If you think about coaches or band directors, you have your plans. So this is an art teacher's first day of school plans, and she just has it in an outline format. That's really great. There's all kinds of things as a regular classroom teacher that I envy, like the fact that each student can have a desk and they can have a specific number, and when they turn in their papers, they can be that number. There's so many cool things that you can do if you have a traditional classroom. This is a core class, so what he has planned for his first day. So they all kind of have a lot of things in common. You know, how you're going to greet the students at the door, you're going to welcome them, you're going to introduce yourself. The first procedures you're going to teach are entering and leaving the classroom. You're going to go over your syllabus or handbook. Usually there's some fun get to know you exercise that you can have them do when they first walk in the room. So anyways, there's a ton, 7 pages worth that you can look at. First day of school slideshow. Okay, so it's actually opening it up in PowerPoint. Okay, sorry, it's taking forever to load. Maybe it's gonna load, it's gonna load. Okay, maybe not. Okay, I'm gonna move on. There's a sample class syllabus that I found. So this is a 4th grade syllabus. So this teacher has the school-wide expectations, the homework policy, kind of the weekly homework schedule. And then here you go with the policies and procedures for each different thing, for makeup work, for restrooms, for the things that, you know, the kids are going to want to know. How does it work when you have to go to the bathroom? How does lunch work? And then the curriculum for the first 4 weeks, parent communication, instructional strategies, all kinds of great stuff. And it's kind of cutesy looking. And then classroom management plan. I'm just going to have all these tabs open. So again, your classroom management plan is mainly going to be dealing with rules. And then you'll want to go into what your procedures are, the classroom layout, what that looks like, your disciplinary interventions, teacher-student relationship. It is really important that you build relationships with your students. And again, in creating this climate, it's going to be much easier to do that. Oh, here's that PowerPoint. Oh my gosh, go away. So this is a French teacher, and she first, you know, has a few pictures, and she talks about her background a little bit more. And you notice that it's got pictures and not a lot of text. That's what you want to do. You don't want to just have a ton of text that your students have to read because they're going to zone out. So the first few slides are just about her. School supplies, and again, pictures and a little bit of text. So there's quite a few slides when it comes to school supplies. And then the rules, 1 rule per slide. And she doesn't have a ton. You don't want to overwhelm the kids. There's usually 5 or less is good. Consequences. And this is probably the school policy when it comes to what happens if students break the rules. And then the procedures. It goes through the different kinds of activities that the students have. And then work, what's expected when it comes to that. And activities, bell ringers, tests, just kind of how the actual curriculum is going to work. Grading, the kids are going to want to know that. So all the basics in this presentation. So the format is what I wanted to share with you. Obviously, you're going to make it personalized for you, but I love all the different sections that she talks about, because those are all things that the students and the parents are going to want to know. So that was this one, the classroom management plan. You're going to want to present that again to your principal And then you'll be able to present that to the students and their parents. Champs. So I briefly went over champs. So if you're not aware of really what champs is, I know that I've had to go through so much training on this, and we've had to make our posters and stuff. I would assume that you probably know it, but if you're a new teacher, maybe you don't. I don't know. So again, you're going to want to take each activity that you have in your classroom and champ it out. So see conversation. Can the students talk about what, with whom, for how long? Help. How do students get your attention for help? How do students get questions answered? What should they do while they wait for you? For instance, with that, in walking in the room for band, I do not want to answer any questions at the beginning of class. The students have to talk to someone else in their section. If they don't know, talk to their section manager. If they don't know, talk to one of the assistant band directors. So 3 before me. And if no one else can answer, then they can ask me. But there's so much going on at the beginning of class that if everyone's asking me questions, I get so frazzled and it's not a good way to start class. Activity, what is the expected end product of the activity? What is it? What is the task or objective? Movement, for what reasons can students get out of their seats during this activity? Do they need permission to do so? Participation, what behavior shows that students are participating or not? Success, there are no questions. When everything is met, then that shows that they're successful. So this has all kinds of information on the champs. This kind of shows what this looks like. And there's different ways to display this in your classroom. I've seen flip charts. I've seen a poster with all the different activities listed. There's all different kinds of things you want to do. What works best for you. For band, at least this past year, well, and it's true every year, we have 3 directors and 3 different classes going on at the same time. And so we all don't meet in the band hall each period. We meet different places throughout the building. This last year was just unprecedented, the amount of different rooms that we had to be in. For each period, I was going from one different room to another. So I ended up putting my champs expectations or whatever on the Canvas page because I was in so many different teachers' rooms. If you're a traveling teacher like me, I guess I could have had a rolling cart and had the poster on the cart. But I've done the rolling cart before and I've actually broken a laptop because with the bumps, it like, whoo, the computer like flew off my cart. So I backpacked it this year, which actually worked better. Theeffectiveteaching.com is another good resource for you. The classroom management is the book that I read, but there's a course. I'm sure you guys are aware of the first day of school. This is the book that I recently read that's really great. But it's not just about buying stuff. There's all kinds of other resources that you can look at for that. And then, of course, Safe and Civil Schools. We've been through those trainings as well. There's different tabs that you can click on with learning about student interventions. There's a champs in the classroom, discipline in the secondary classroom. I just read that book again as well, and things like that. And I'm sure if you Googled, you could find a whole lot of different resources as well. So I kind of zipped through this in about 30 minutes. I planned an hour, but I think I talk fast. So if anyone has any questions and wants to unmute or put it in the chat, I'll welcome those. Otherwise, I hope this was helpful for you and that you've learned something from it.
Thank you. So I've been teaching for 7 years and I'll be an NCL on my campus, but I'm actually cycling with my kids. So I get to go up to 2nd grade with them. But I was like, I really like the, I really like the syllabus and like thinking how I could even make that for the 2nd grade kiddos and just so that their parents have too. I never would have thought of doing that even just for elementary, but like I really like that idea. I'm curious to see if like the higher grades, the 3rd through 5th, do something like that on my campus.
Yeah, I know that I don't know if it was a requirement or a recommendation for us each to have our own syllabus. I kind of zoned out because we do our handbook. But I think at least at the middle school level, each teacher is supposed to have their own syllabus. And I because of COVID, another thing that I learned was just how to be more digitally savvy. Because in band, I kind of pushed back and was like, no, we have sheet music, we play, it's just hands-on. But there's so many things that we had to do that I'm definitely keeping. Going through all that Google certification, I know that I had created a digital version of the handbook this past year where parents, everything was fillable. And so they could put all their information and then it would just be sent to me electronically. That is amazing because if I give the students the option of whether they want to give me the paper version or that, I'm going to get more back. If I'm relying on the kids to bring me the papers signed back, I'm not going to get them all back.
Yeah, and even the assessment, I like that you had like the Google forms and like the quizzes on that to assess their knowledge of procedures. I was like, because I know my kids, they love Kahoot. So I was like, well, we'll play a Kahoot game and assess them that way. So I really thank you for sharing all of those things.
Well, I'm glad it was helpful. Like I said, I don't know if you were here at the beginning. When I first started teaching, my biggest challenge was classroom management. And every year when you have to tell your appraiser what goal you have or what thing you want to work on, it's always been classroom management. And I don't know if it's I guess it's probably a mixture of experience, but also just learning what works. That doesn't seem to be a weakness of mine anymore. Maybe because I've been so focused on it, but being such a young teacher and having to manage a band of 70 kids that all had their own agenda, I had to learn real quick, like how to manage that and what I needed to do. And I've had some bad years or bad classes. And I just wish that I knew then what I know now, or had, I guess, the confidence that I have now that I didn't have then.
Yeah. Well, this is really helpful because we had a lot of changes between grade levels on our campus this year that are happening. And we have like this new design that my principal did where there's going to be even more kids rotating. And so kind of, I liked hearing it from your perspective of I'm going to be one of those teachers who's in-housed with my kids. So I'm self-contained, but I think there's going to be more of us now that are switching in our upstairs floor than there are who are self-contained. So yeah, I think kind of putting on those goggles.
Yeah, we had talked about that with last summer. I guess at this time we were putting together our COVID plan, like how is school going to work, especially with electives. For the core teachers, they were talking probably the safest thing to do would be to keep the kids contained in their one little class and then teachers would rotate. And then we're like, how's that going to work with electives? And we figured out it wasn't going to work, but we did have to get really creative. Like I know that we, as band teachers, we had to use the science teachers labs one period. I had to use the Atlas kitchen one period. We taught outside in the courtyard, just all over the place. And so those were procedures that I had to add to my arsenal. You know, it's like, first, the students that have to travel the farthest, they get to go in the band hall and retrieve their instruments first and then line up out here. And then the class that has to travel the next farthest, you're going to go get your instruments and you're going to line up on this side. And then the students that stay in the band hall, then you go in. And then when you get to your location, this is your procedure. You have to go grab your music stand. And there was just so much. So, but knowing that ahead of time put us ahead of the game. There was one procedure that we were told that we needed to put in place that didn't work. It was kind of funny. Was we needed one point of entry and one point of exit so that there wasn't so many kids. And so we have this one exit door that is usually blocked off, and it leads to our garden at our school, which is fenced in. And so I knew that on rainy days we weren't going to be able to do this procedure, but on sunny days we should be able to, you know, come in this way and go out this way. So we practiced it, and the kids like go out into the garden, and then they start coming back in that same door, and I was like, what are y'all doing? And they said, Miss, the gate is locked. We can't get out of the garden. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't have a key, so I was like, oh my gosh, I'll come back in here. And then, you know, I tried to work it out with the principal and everything, and it was just decided that's probably a bad idea. We just need to go in and out the same door, and we just managed the traffic a little better. But that was so funny. They were trying so hard to follow the procedure, and then they got locked in. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But anyway,
Well, thank you so much. This was very helpful.
I'm glad to hear. This is my first presentation. I was a little bit nervous, but, and you know, you always have those voices in your head saying, oh gosh, what you have to say isn't worth, you know, what someone else might have to say. So I appreciate that. And you got something out of it.
Growth mindset.
If we didn't sign up in Eduphoria, will we just do the exit ticket that's linked in the, like the Waco ISD PD page?
I assume so. Yeah, I'm actually not sure on that.
Okay, because I went to go open up the exit ticket and your session isn't like popping up under the choices. I don't know if it's maybe because maybe it'll pop up at 2 since it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll email Jeremy Kidd, because the last I had checked on the session, he had like a spreadsheet for proposals, and then he had different tabs for the sessions. And my session was still under proposal. It wasn't under the actual session, but he okayed it all and everything was good. And so I was like, okay.
I have it under, so under the Waco ISD, the PD, it's in summer session under the curriculum and instructions tab.
Yeah, I found that. It's just, you know, when you go to the, I just opened it up like 2 seconds ago, but the exit
And it's not.
form, yeah, like, yeah, it's not popping up under the choose your session. So I just wanted to make sure. I take some notes so I can always just, you know, plug it in later. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about it, but just want to make sure we, you know, we get credit.
Right. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll email Jeremy Kidd and find out on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe he'll send out an email or something.
It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. I guess I'm going to log out. I appreciate y'all hanging with me for about 40 minutes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.